Hi, it's Luke with Out of Darts. This video is our momentum guide. It is sort of our tips and tricks along with a user guide because we think a video is a great way to show off a lot of the features. Before we get going with momentum, it's really important that you understand LiPo battery safely. This is just a warning that we basically tape to every box along with the warnings on the batteries and the warnings on the charger and the manual, but you must read the entire manual of both the battery and the charger. You need to understand the safety requirements of these batteries. I am not going to list everything off in this video, nor is this list complete, so please go to our website and actually look at the entire video and text regarding caring for these batteries. Just know that if mishandled, LiPo batteries can be dangerous. So this is one of my personal momentums. We've got the nice Nebula filament here. We obviously print in PLA as well as polycarbonate for the interior core portion. Now, more than likely the core on yours will actually be black. We opted to go black for future versions, but all of the parts you see here are PLA, meaning that you shouldn't leave them in a hot car. The same should go for your battery itself. This should never be left in a hot car either. So these two things essentially should never be left in a hot car or very hot environment. A quick walk around the blaster. You've got, of course, your main firing trigger. You've got your ambidextrous mag release on either side. Up front, you've got your muzzle, which is always printed in orange. You've got standard Picatinny rails up top and on the bottom. We don't put a screw into every single hole here, but I would recommend moving the screw to the point right where you're going to mount if you're going to mount, say, a heavier optic. In the back, we've got our folding stock. Folding stock is pretty simple in operation. If you want to remove it, it is a Torx T20, and you just loosen these and take them all the way out, and then the whole thing will slide up. To actually move the stock forward or to collapse it, you simply push it up and swing that way. I'll do that from the other side so you can see. It's essentially an up and in, and you can just slap it in place. I do this while running, and I frequently whip it back out while I'm playing. I've really found this to be a great stock design overall, and I love the function of it and how lightweight but compact it can ultimately be when you want it to be. It is worth noting that almost the entire blaster uses Torx screws. Eli was pretty adamant that he wanted high quality screws that you could put in and out. A lot of these are thread form. They are proper plastic screws, meaning they are intended to go in, create threads when they're screwed in. That being said, it is plastic and metal into plastic, so I wouldn't recommend taking the blaster apart more than you need to, unless you're taking it apart to clean or something like that. All of the worker magazines that are straight talons, that's the 18, the 15, and the 10s, are all compatible. However, you will not be able to max out the rate of fire with the springs that are in those magazines. They will work fine, but you only get up to about 18 or 20 rounds a second. Our Coda magazines and the high rate of fire Tachi springs can definitely keep up a little bit better. They've got a little bit stiffer springs, so these were ultimately designed for this blaster or with this blaster in mind. But that said, it works just fine with talons. I've played all day with talons and there's no problem whatsoever there. When it comes to darts, there is only one dart that we recommend, and this is straight from Eli himself. It is also what we have tested very, very extensively throughout time with these blasters, and it's the only thing I ever run in any of my springers or blasters. This is a Gen 3 Plus worker. It's also known as the high-end worker. You do need to be careful about where you get these. There are some vendors from China that are selling, it looks like factory seconds or something. All the ones from us have been very high quality that we've received from Worker, but I've definitely seen some out there that look like they had additional issues where the foam wasn't the right diameter and such, but we've literally sold thousands of boxes of these, and these have been a very, very popular product. These darts are about 2 millimeters shorter than some of the competition, such as this Adventure Force Pro. You can just see the slight variance in length there. We're gonna do a video on this at some point. I've been meaning to talk about this for a while, but because of this, they feed really well in magazines. And the other big advantage here is that the foam, you're just gonna have to take my word for it, but even more so in hot conditions, the foam is just much firmer and the glue is very, very, very strong. While we're on the subject of darts, you of course can use Adventure Force Pros or bamboo darts. They are just fine, but you want to 100% avoid waffle darts. Waffle darts are too large and too firm, and it doesn't matter what brand these are, just do not use anything that has a wide head. We also don't really recommend these old jet darts. They will go through the blaster just fine. They aren't very accurate, and the heads come off really, really easily. I generally, with the Gen 3 Plus have very, very few deheadings even after firing the darts through many, many times. Most importantly, along with never using waffle-headed or wide-headed darts, never ever let a hard tip dart. This is an FPGA, it is a piece of garbage, it is literally, I cannot compress this tip. Never put that through the blaster, you will catastrophically fail, you will burn out multiple components by doing this. So that's one of the big warnings here is this is a performance blaster, it requires performance darts. Don't pick up any garbage you find on the ground. Eli is crazy enough that he likes to only put new darts in his blaster, but I pick up used darts all the time. I just make sure that I blow them off, make sure they are clean. Don't put muddy darts in there. Don't put compressed, broken darts or squished darts. Over time, sand, dirt, grime, it will build up inside the blaster. It can wear down the flywheels over time, especially if you're gonna fire thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds through it. You really want to be a little more selective about what you're going to put in this. And the analogy I make there is a little bit like a high performance sports car. You're not going to put in regular gasoline into a high-end vehicle. Next, I'll show you the select fire. This is pretty straightforward, but I like to cover everything in this video that I can. You can see right here we are on semi. One notch down is burst. Burst is adjustable. We'll show you that in a minute. And then in the bottom is full auto. So I like to think about it as all the way up is sort of my standard play, and then I tend to rock it down to full auto when I'm ready, or if I feel like really picking out that burst. It really depends on your play style. Next, we're going to talk about the battery. There is only one battery we recommend for this blaster, and it is a very high drain 95C 1050 milliamp battery. You cannot get a larger battery inside this blaster. This is the large standard handle that we've got, but nothing larger will fit. This battery is literally what the blaster was designed for. Eli had the specific size in mind, so use that whenever possible. It's worth noting that this does come with a protective cover when you buy them from us, but you're not going to want to keep these on here just for space. You're going to want to take that off. That's just a protector to stop this from being torqued around. The blaster has low voltage shut off, so it will turn off automatically. You do not need to use a LiPo alarm. So I'll repeat that. Do not use a LiPo alarm with momentum. It does not need it. That said, we do not recommend storing a battery in here at any time. There is a slow drain from the board itself and from the LEDs, and it will drain over time even in the off mode, which is really a passive off mode. So now I'll go ahead and I'll show you how to put in the battery. First, you're just going to unscrew your thumb screw, take the battery door off, and inside you're going to see the XT60. So this is very hard to see, but you're going to pin this to one side, and then you're going to push the connector in until you've got your connection made. After you've heard that, you're going to look down in here, and you can see there is a void that is essentially right here, and that's where the connector is ultimately going to be kind of shoved down into. And you don't have to be super gentle with it, but you shouldn't have to use too much force to get it into place. Once you've got that in, you can put your battery door back on and put your thumb screw in. Now, if you didn't hear that startup chime, you know something's wrong, and you should see lights right away. When you first turn the blaster on, it is by default going to be in ready to fire, ready to go mode, meaning if I pull the trigger, we're gonna get action right away. If you want to turn it off, you've got a jog dial here on the right side of the blaster. Now this has two functions. It goes forward and backwards. It also can be pressed in. Green means we're in fire. If I do a long hold forward, like 1 second, that will turn the blaster off. So now we can no longer fire. This first dot here, closest to the stock, red indicates that you are off. I do a 1 second hold forward. That brings us to on. So green means on. Flashing green is the third option that you'll ever see in the first LED here, and that is for the tournament idling, which is essentially a low flywheel RPM idle. We'll get to that in a minute. When you're not in the menus, your middle button is always going to indicate your firing mode. So currently, at a glance, I can see that we are green. That is semi. When I go to the middle, so over here, I have just set this to semi, or to burst, excuse me. Now blue blinking is burst. And then this fast alternating blinking is full auto. This third indicator is the battery level. Green 3 blinks means it's full, down to red 1 blink means it's down to the lowest, and you should probably swap your battery. to access the different menus. You're going to push this button in once. You don't have to push very hard, so do be gentle. And now we can see we're actually setting the velocity. So red is actually the highest. If I go this way, I go down. Now I'm in yellow. That's the 4th setting. The 3rd setting, it's kind of an orangey yellowish. Blue is the 2nd setting. And this lowest blinking blue should be the lowest. And then this will circle back. So if I go back one more, I'm now up to high. So just so you can hear the difference, here's the lowest. There's the setting number 2. Setting number 3. Setting number 4. And red all the way up, maximum setting. I'm going to put that back down sort of towards the middle bottom. Now if I push in again, I'm going to go to the 2nd mode in the menu, which is this middle light will be flashing. When this middle light is flashing, now we are actually adjusting our shot burst size. So you can see it's bursting 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. If I go up, it'll do 4. And then if I go up again, it'll do 5. So literally that is just setting the burst size. You can do everything from 2 to 5. Your 3rd menu you can access by pushing this one more time. Now we're in the 3rd programming, we're in the 3rd light, and this is actually your rate of fire. Now the corresponding are approximately 7 darts, 12.5, 18.8, and 26 darts per second by default. So again, if I go down to the bottom, this should be 7, so I'm going to flip it into full auto because you do not have to exit the menu to actually fire. So that's 7, we go up once more, we get 12.5. We go up once more, we get 18.8. We go up once more, we get 26. To get back to the home screen, just click once more and you're back onto your normal setting. It may seem a little confusing at first, but really, 1st menu, 2nd menu, 3rd menu, adjust menu settings by going front or back, forward or back. 4th press gets us back to the home. We will also have a diagram depicting this on the listing. We just know that some people are very much visual learners like myself and prefer a video, so here we are. As you're entering all of these different menus, it's worth noting that you just need to press this. You don't need to hold for more than a moment. The only time you're going to hold for more than a moment is special programming or to turn the blaster off. To turn the blaster off, you just hold for about a second, and then we are in lock or safe mode. And then hold it forward again for about a second, and it will do the power cycle, and you're ready to fire. Other than that, you don't want to hold it more than a second or so, because if you hold it 5 seconds in, you'll actually reset the board itself. The last mode I want to show you is tournament idling. Now, tournament idling basically will spool up your motors and keep them at a low RPM constantly. That way, each shot you fire will be faster to respond and your motors will spin up faster. Overcoming the initial inertia of just the wheels sitting at rest actually requires the most amount of power, and it takes the most time in the rev up to full RPM to actually fire the dart. So this lets you get just that extra little edge in a tournament scenario. To enable tournament lock, you're going to hold that button in and then hold the trigger, and then you'll hear it spin up. Now, again, don't hold this more than a few seconds, so you should do this relatively quickly. If you do hold this for 5 seconds, you'll reset the system. So I'm going to push that in and then pull the trigger, and there we are. So now you can hear it is just idling away. And it is noticeable to me, having played with this blaster enough, this does make a difference on how fast it will idle. To exit tournament idling, it's the same operation. So again, to spin up and to turn it off. Eli is estimating that idling like this will last for around an hour. It's not too much of a concern for extra heat because drone motors are intended to be run this way. In fact, they actually probably do better going from not totally idle all the way up, but keep this in mind that this is definitely a mode you really only want to do if it's for a specific round. You're not going to want to run around with this on all day long. I want to talk really quick about the USB port. This is a TPU cover, so a nice little flexible cover. Underneath is a micro USB. It'll take any standard micro USB cable. You do not need a battery in here when you plug it in. To update firmware, assuming that we've got a firmware update in the future, which I am almost certain we will because there's always stuff that comes up that we want to fix or improve over time. That's one of the coolest things about the blaster. But you literally just plug this into your Mac, your PC, your Linux machine, drag and drop the file, and that's it. Really, really simple. It makes it just stupid easy to update the firmware in the future, which I think is fantastic. That's it as far as main operation. I also wanted to run over a few general tips. It's a really great idea before you start a game to make sure that you're not jammed and that there is not a dart in this barrel or somewhere in the flywheels. Next, it's best to keep the blaster as clean as you can. You may notice some dart buildup in the muzzle and around the flywheels. You can blow that off with a blower. Just make sure you're not using any liquid, or if you're using an air compressor, make sure you're doing it in bursts and keeping things dry. You shouldn't have to clean with any solvent or any liquid or anything like that. You're just going to want to blow off any dust that you happen to see in the system or in the magwell. It's PLA, so if you need to clean it, we recommend just rubbing alcohol, a little bit of rubbing alcohol and water, or just water. If you had to use soap, you could, but I would avoid any other caustic cleaners of any sort. And if you are trying to clean out the barrel, the best is just to blow into these different various ports. If you ever had to, the 4 screws up front here remove the barrel if you needed to access and look inside. Dart build up, a little bit of dart wear on the flywheels is completely normal, so you don't really have to worry about cleaning that off. Here you can see an example of a little bit here that this could just be blown out with a can of air or a bulb blower. One last note is that Eli is working on a tournament lock, and this is like a pro tournament lock where the organizers can dump a file onto your USB, which will lock your blaster at a given setting. That way you are not able to change any settings once you're out on the field. We think this will make people more comfortable having these at tournaments because at some tournaments they shoot too high, or maybe for an HVZ game, but we are happy to work with event organizers in the future to make that a reality. Thank you so much for watching. Momentum has fast become my absolute all-time favorite flywheeler. I realize it's not for everybody, but it really matches my aggressive play style, and I just love the tiny form factor, flexibility, and the ability to play all game types with the wide range of performance. Until next time, I'm out of darts.